Good day everyone. Today my team and I will be introducing a cutting-edge leadership development program about innovation. So let us show you the reason why our program is worth investing in by firstly diving into a corporate diagnosis about CMS leadership weaknesses that are driving down innovation, and about how our program will help CMS achieve innovation and become a truly visionary and innovative enterprise. Creativity and innovation are increasingly important these days because of the VUCA business environment, which paints a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous playing field that organizations currently operate in. It is a product of technological changes involving consumer preferences and other factors. In turbulent times like this, studies show that traditional leadership approaches have become meager in weathering the storm of challenges caused by the unstable VUCA landscape, and that new forms of strong and effective leadership must now be applied in organizational settings to enhance the flexibility in decision-making and promote innovation in the workplace. Undoubtedly, some leadership practices will foster innovation, while other practices may hamper it within an organization. At CMS, the bureaucratic leadership style it adopts at its quarry and premise factories, cement grinding plants, and distribution terminals where employees must follow strict policies and SOP drive down innovation, as it sends out the message that leaders are more policy focused than people focused, which can demotivate staff and lower their morale, which would then stifle creativity and innovation. Moreover, the rigid structure of this leadership style suppresses creative thinking and innovation, as any deviation from established processes by staff are to be penalized. This leadership is inflexible, and with such an innovation-hampering organizational structure, bureaucratic leaders and their staff will have low adaptability when confronted with changes. The transactional leadership style, same as practices, where top-level management divides organizational tasks in a clear and distinct manner, along with rewards given in the form of biannual bonuses and an annual raise, and having underperforming staff subjected to punishment also drives down innovation, as leaders are results-oriented. The minimal working relationship form creates a cold and impersonal workplace environment that lead to low and reduced job satisfaction. Furthermore, as workers are only rewarded with financial rewards, no real motivators are used to stimulate feelings of self-content or to inculcate creativity. This objective and goal-focused leadership adopted also leaves no room for flexibility, and thus is unsuitable for the cultivation and stimulation of new and innovative ideas. Thus, to help CMS achieve innovation, we have crafted a program that centers around three key leadership concepts. While the curriculum is intellectual construct based, where we equip participants with relevant up-to-date leadership knowledge, ideas, skills, and behaviors that participants need to master to continuously meet organizational goals and achieve sustainable competitive advantage for CMS in a VUCA business environment. In capitalizing on high potential ideas, we look to how organizations allow creativity, the prerequisite of innovation to flourish. As ideas are rarely born in their most novel or useful forms, and instead become novel or useful when people work on them until the most valuable components are distilled and intensified. Organizational leaders have the responsibility to consistently champion ideas, develop change agent skills, be supportive and helpful in the development of creative ideas. Understand that capitalizing on creativity is a multiplayer game. Create working environments that inspire employees to demonstrate and reach for their highest productive potential. We have our focus on transformational leadership, as it produces visionary, inspiring, and motivating leaders that aim to change followers into capable employees, into critical thinkers, and to facilitate their improvement to create a self-replicative and sustainable leadership. As these leaders are focused on meeting employees' higher order intrinsic needs, they raise staff internal motivation, self-efficacy, and psychological empowerment, which help to cultivate their active participation in innovative activities in the workplace, which will be advantageous to CMS when confronted with issues in a complex and ever-changing business environment that requires creative problem solving. The servant leadership style is people-focused, where leaders aim to serve followers, share responsibility and power, prioritize people's needs by empowering them and supporting their development to build a sense of community. This leadership is valued as the positive leader-follower relationship can create higher staff job satisfaction levels and strengthen the sense of belonging, which increase staff motivation to innovate at work. By effectively meeting staff personal development needs, staff will perceive that their jobs will be more meaningful, which motivates them to perform better, to be more flexible and adaptable when navigating work challenges. So now let's take a deeper look at our leadership development program called Innovation for Emerging Leaders. It is a modern leadership development program that creates innovative leaders of innovative enterprises. Let's begin by talking about benefits of leadership development programs. So before we jump into our proposed leadership development program, here are some reasons why this type of programs are more often than not great organizational investments. Firstly, when management understands how to effectively empower and keep staff engaged, it will absolutely enhance staff productivity. Staff engagement and staff retention will be increased as well, because managers will learn how to motivate and upskill staff, which helps interest staff into staying with an organization and helps the firm to reduce costly recruitment costs. Additionally, a wholesome, positive, and nurturing corporate culture can be created after manager learns to embrace learning, while managers' decisions making skills will improve as they pick up the skills through the development program to make informed and strategic business decisions. Now that is out of the way, let's talk about innovation for the emerging leaders. So these are our program goals. Our leadership development program is thoughtfully designed with an overarching goal to shape the organizational mindset of emerging leaders into an adaptive, startup-minded, and innovation-oriented state of mind. Our program isn't just in the business of turning out good managers. We have our sights set on delivering powerful, well-rounded, and relevant organizational leaders who are effective in leading organizations in today's VUCA business environment. Thus, to meet our overarching program goal, we aim to educate leaders about the leadership and strategy innovation best practices. Also, to build leaders' capabilities needed to lead a firm through change and disruption, to stretch leader thinking into innovative values and perspective of leading organizations. Lastly, to facilitate the creation of strategies as a catalyst for organizational innovations. So now I will pass the time to Alicia.
Here's our program overview for today. Innovation for Emerging Leaders strives to bring out the innovative and adaptive side of newly appointed leaders by educating them on relevant innovation and leadership concept, enhancing their understanding of their role in leading organizational innovation, raising self-awareness as a leader, and exposing them to industry's best practices to help them inculcate an innovation and people-focused attitude in the workplace. Our diverse and stimulating hands-on exercise seeks to develop, sharpen, strengthen the leadership capabilities necessary for participants to be a collaborative, adaptive, flexible, reflective, innovative, and effective leader against the challenging VUCA business landscape. Moreover, our forward-thinking modules aim to equip participants with progressive strategical and methodological knowledge to help them skillfully reinvent or modernize business processes, systems, and modules to motivate, develop, and retain employees, to identify and groom successes, and to instill an innovation-oriented mindset with their organization for its attainment of sustainable competitive advantage. Our program is comprised of 3 phases, where 14 modules mentorship sessions, progress discussions will be conducted. Upon completion of all these phases, participants will receive an Innovative Leader Award certification. Our program learning objectives is divided into 3 phases. The first being acquiring knowledge. It's basically a phase where we make participants understand innovation, leadership, the importance of the two as a correspondence, and common corporate leadership approaches and styles, as well as to comprehend the role and responsibilities of managers in driving and leading innovation, and also to increase self-awareness regarding participants' personal leadership styles, personalities, strengths, weaknesses, skills, values, as well as attitudes. And also to understand the strategic drivers of new business models and factors that drive organizational growth. And lastly, to learn the best innovation practices adopted across different industries regarding policy making, organizational cultures, as well as organizational values. As for phase 2 of our program learning objectives, the key takeaways of this phase of the program is to develop innovation-focused leadership capabilities, enhance cross-department collaborative skills, learn how to capitalize on innovative capabilities and skills developed. Next would be to develop adaptive leadership capabilities, learn to manage, respond positively to change, and to effectively manage and communicate during an organizational crisis. Third would be enhancing self-reflecting team diagnosing and conflict management skills, as well as learn to embrace the learning culture and acquiring valuable lessons from historical leaderships. Last but not least of this phase is to discover organizational norms, policies, structures that hinder the development of innovation, and also learn how to improve these systems. The last and final learning objective of this program under phase 3, thinking ahead, is for participants to pick up strategies to increase employee engagement, improve monitoring and feedback, better develop employees, and enhance reward and compensation programs. Next would be for employees to develop improvements and enhancements for innovation, hindering business models currently in place, and also learn how to integrate new and modern technologies into the workflow and identify opportunities for employees to upskill to reduce fear of being replaced by machines. And also to understand methods to develop behaviors and incentives that foster workplace creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and to empower and motivate employees to sustain them. Last but not least is to embrace the utilization of people analytics and other technologies as means to identify and groom successes. Our program outline for our learning development program will be displayed and further explained during the flow of this presentation. So, at the start of our program, under phase 1, it is imperative that participants understand the importance of innovation in general, which is why the first phase of the program is focused on increasing the knowledge and awareness of participants regarding innovation as a whole, which will mostly be done through lecture sessions. Furthermore, what is equally as important would be the roles and responsibilities of these participants as organizational leaders and in establishing a sustainable innovation engine. Thus, in session 1 of our first module, participants will get to know the definition of innovation, the importance of innovation in an organization, and how it is created and utilized in an organization. Next, participants will also be taught through a lecture on different types of innovation, of the importance of leadership, and innovation as a correspondence, how these two factors complement each other, along with getting to know different types of leadership styles and approaches, and how they hinder or promote an organization's innovation. Still under Module 1, after participants return from lunch, a lengthy group discussion session handled by facilitators and the instructor will commence, where a series of insightful questions to be discussed in groups of 4 people will be asked to provoke deeper thinking and comprehension of the subject of innovation and the leadership needed to promote innovation in an organization. The module will end with an exchange session between the instructor and participants. Moving on to the next module of Session 1, Leading Innovation. Participants will firstly be taught through a lecture on the different levels of management and the roles and responsibilities of a manager or supervisor at each level, which will be an essential lesson for those who have just recently ascended to their managerial positions. Then, participants will be given a brief review on their unspoken duties as organizational leaders in driving innovation at their organization, which managers and supervisors of all levels of experience can learn a thing or two from before breaking off for lunch. Then the next session will be a continual of session 1, where we will uncover the duties of managers in leading innovation in order to drive an efficient innovation engine, which will largely be based on the 4 leadership lessons on capitalizing on high potential ideas that molds creativity into innovation, along with the important personal traits of an effective leader that should possess to lead and to drive innovation. So here is where things will get a little bit more interesting in session 3, where participants will get into unconventional teams of 4 people for a debate on the topic, should leadership styles and approaches be adjusted accordingly to promote innovative culture? So, 3 debate sessions will take place simultaneously, while the other 2 remaining sessions will take place at the completion of the first 3 sessions. Each debate will be 15 minutes long. This exercise acts as an reinforcement of what the participants have learned through the day and promotes cross-functional collaboration as it gives them an opportunity to work closely with managers and supervisors from other departments or subsidiaries that they normally would not interact often with. Next up, in session 4, participants will again get into groups of 4 to explore their personal values as well as shared team values to come up with a set of essential values as a leader. And also, an organization should have to be written on a flip chart and presented to the rest of the class. This is a highly reflective activity in a sense that it promotes dialogue around personal and organizational values, which is something that is not talked about enough in a corporate setting. So at this stage of the program, participants will increase their self-awareness regarding the personal leadership styles as well as their own personalities. To firstly learn about personalities, participants will be given a brief lecture on the common leadership characteristics, traits, and personalities of diverse leaders. In session 2, participants will be given a set of personality tests and a leadership assessment, self-assessment online to be filled in, such as the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the 16 personalities test, the Human Matrix Jung typology test, as well as the Leadership in Self Insights. Participants are required to complete 2 sets, which is the Myers-Briggs type indicator and the Leadership Self Insights assessment at the workshop, while the other personality tests are to be done in their own time. So, after completing the 2 tests, the instructor will provide participants with a brief explanation of each result and how they are related to the participants' leadership style. And then we will allow time for Q&A session regarding the participants' results. So, after the participants return from lunch and after learning about their personality styles and leadership behaviors, session 3 will be used to self-reflect on their own negative trigger that needs to be altered in terms of their characteristics as a leader, such as their weaknesses or personalities that might hinder an organization's movement to innovation. So over here, another individual activity called the Leadership Pizza will also be played by participants, where they must ponder on the skills and attitudes they find most important in leadership, assess themselves against these benchmark skills and attitudes, and also initiate goal settings for themselves. After this exercise, participants will be given an introductory session led by the facilitator and instructor on what a personal development plan is, the benefits of having one, and how to go about using it, firstly on their own first, and then with the help of their mentor, who will be introduced to them in the first mentorship session after the completion of phase 1. The module will end with an exchange session between participants and the instructor. Okay, so just a reminder that module 4 and 5 of phase 1 will be conducted on the same day. So, first and foremost, in module 4, strategic drivers of new business models, we will firstly introduce participants to drivers of organizational growth and how they can develop successful growth via a lecture session in session 1. In the same session, a lecture will also be conducted on the strategic drivers of new business models, which will be delivered to participants, where they will understand the 6 key focus areas such as customers, people, technologies, operations, finance, and risk that are driving the existence of new business models. By grasping this particular information and by engaging themselves to a thorough understanding of these strategic drivers, they will definitely be more well equipped to make better strategic decisions in their organization, especially being newly appointed organizational leaders. So, in session 2, participations will be educated through a lecture on the definition of and the importance of organizational cultures, distinct types of corporate cultures, the role of workplace norms, values, and beliefs in shaping an organizational culture, and the significance of selecting the right kind of organizational culture to adopt. A group discussion will then take place after the lecture, where participants will get into groups again of 4 people and share their thoughts and perception of CMS workplace culture. Okay, so this whole thing is module 5 under innovations best practices. So, since they're conducted on the same day, module 5 will start at session 4, where participants will be given a lecture on the types of organizational culture that supports innovation, 6 principles for creating a solid innovation process in the workplace before being presented with a number of innovation best practices adopted by successful innovative enterprises to give participants an idea of how companies like Google, Tesla, Apple, which continue to churn out highly innovative and forward-thinking organization at all time. So, in session 5, it will consist of participants regrouping to discuss on the previously outlined workplace culture at CMS, to determine which of its cultural elements are innovation friendly and which are not. Then the participants of the same group will participate in a team building activity centered around innovation called the Marshmallow Challenge. It's a really fun game which teams are to compete to build the tallest freestanding structure out of only 20 spaghetti sticks, a yard of tape, string, and a single marshmallow which needs to be on top of the structure in only 18 minutes. Through this activity, it allows participants to apply innovation in their problem strategies as well as to collaborate well with others.
Thanks, Alicia. In Phase 2, Module 1, the innovative and collaborative leader begins with a lecture about how the servant leadership and transformational leadership promotes workplace innovation and how these leadership styles can be learned and adopted will be delivered. After the lecture, participants will participate in the Leaders that Admire activity in groups of 4, which will help them determine the desired capabilities of leadership. To guide participants on how to capitalize on capabilities innovatively, topics such as types of organizational capabilities, ways to evaluate them for innovative values, and techniques to build innovative capabilities needed will be presented during the lecture in session 2, followed by complete the incomplete figure exercise to improve creative thinking, where participants are required to finish drawing a series of incomplete images. In session 3, a lecture focusing on the definition and importance of collaboration and how it leads to innovation is conducted. Another lecture in session 2 will educate participants on the 9 crucial strategies to promote interdepartmental collaboration. After this, participants will get into groups of 4 for an exercise called Listen and Draw, where participants must draw according to instructions given by other group members. This game requires active listening skills from participants and essential communication skills and helps participants to understand the importance of depending on each other for success. A short lecture on the 3 essential types of collaboration skills will then be delivered after tea break in session 4. Next, participants will be given an EQ assessment form to access their own emotional intelligence before getting together for an exercise called the Respect Discussion that teaches participants to respect diversity and learn to consider different perspectives. The module will end with an exchange session with the instructor. Going on to Module 2, Dealing with Change, a lecture on the definition and implications of change management, 5 change management models, change agents, the skills, and manager's role as one will be given to participants in session 1. Participants will also be asked to discuss in groups on the most effective ways to become a change agent and self-reflect on the skills that they should adopt to be a change agent. In Sessions 2 lecture, participants will learn the roles of managers in helping employees to respond positively to change in the fast-paced environment, and the roles of employees in engendering a successful change. Participants will then get into groups of 4 for an activity called The New Company, will push leaders to embrace change and sharpen their change management skills. Next session, participants will learn about the 3 phases of crisis environment, the importance of crisis communication, and the best practices for crisis leadership through a lecture. A British Petroleum case study is then analyzed to address and educate participants on the key components of ethical principles in crisis communication. After the tea break, another lecture focusing on the adaptive and technical challenges, the attitudes needed when facing unforeseen issues, and the essential adaptive leadership capabilities is conducted. This encourages participants to improvise and to be more experimental when scanning for potential challenges. Then, a crisis simulation game is played in a group of 4 whereby participants are required to download the online app on their devices to access to the game where different scenarios in crisis are played. This helps participants to develop a range of essential leadership capabilities, from change management and team performances to stakeholder engagement and strategy execution. Moving on to Module 3 Learning from the Past, a lecture on the definition and importance of self-reflection will be conducted in Session 1, followed by a regret letter exercise, which makes up a practical guide for self-reflection as participants are required to write a letter to their younger self by listing down the regrets that they have had in their life so far. In Session 2, a lecture on the definition, importance, and benefits of learning culture and the methods to promote learning culture in the workplace is conducted so that employees will be able to learn, grow, and wake up to their full potential while innovative ideas can flourish more easily in the workplace. Next, participants will play a game called Here's a Fun Fact, where they get into groups of 4 to share about themselves or any topic they like which would promote knowledge sharing and learning from one another. After lunch, Session 3 is focused on the reflection of participants on team, such as their team dynamic XCMS, the strength and weakness, and whether their teams are achieving team objectives. Then, participants will attend a short lecture on the approaches to enhance team efficiency. Next, in Session 4, a lecture comprising of the causes of workplace conflicts, the 5 conflict handling modes, and the degree of overusing or underusing the 5 modes will be conducted. Leaders will then be given a Thomas Kuhlmann conflict mode instrument, TKI, online assessment to discover their degree of overusing or underusing one or more of the 5 conflict handling modes. In Session 5, a brief lecture on the leadership achievement and the mistakes of great historical leaders, along with related documentaries, movies, or video clips are presented to participants. Participants should take note on the key leadership practices that hinder and promote innovation found throughout the clips, along with any relevant skills exhibited by these leaders in the face of change and disruption. This is to strengthen participants' understanding of the essential skills needed to lead CMS in a VUCA business environment. This module will end with an exchange session with instructors. At the start of Module 4, Uncovering Workplace System Issues, a lecture on the concept of trust factory, organizational norm, system, or structure that diminish or develop trust in the workplace, and the methods to improve trust between co-workers is conducted. This educates participants on how best to promote workplace innovation and ways to overcome conflicts hindering the development of workplace innovation. A self-reflection activity called Trust Factory is then carried out for participants to reflect on the trust level they individually have towards each person on their team and focuses on the action that can charge the depleted trust batteries. In Session 2, a lecture on organizational norms, systems, or structures that prohibit risk-taking, techniques to identify, analyze, and mitigate potential risks, and the methods to promote corporate culture of taking calculated risks is given. Next, participants are required to do up a risk map, a very useful method to identify potential risks that also encourages leaders to be open to taking risks, especially in the innovation process. Next, in Session 3, participants will attend a lecture on the types of individual differences and the level of inherent bias towards these differences. Then, participants are required to take the Harvard's implicit association test to identify their own inherent or unconscious biases towards these individuals who are typical targets of harmful stereotypes and biasness. After that, another lecture on culture fit and the importance of developing a good culture fit in an organization is conducted. This is followed by a discussion in groups of 4 to verbalize participants' biased view, which helps them to see error in their pre-existing judgments and to brainstorm on a good culture fit for their organization. This module is wrapped up with an exchange session with instructors. Now, Valerie share about phase 3 of our program.
Thanks, Vanessa. Under Phase 3, the Putting It Together phase, we have Module 1, Managing Performance. The day will start off with a session on management of employee engagement, where a lecture about the behaviors of engaged and disengaged employees, 6 organizational and management drivers of employee engagement, and their roles to continuously develop and sustain employee engagement will be given. After the lecture, participants will be given a case study about employee behavior before working on their own to determine which member of their team or department are engaged or disengaged employees. After a tea break, session 2 will commence, where participants will learn the pros and cons of different feedback intervals and the different techniques of recording performance management through a lecture. To relate the importance and power of feedback, participants will get into groups of 4 to form a team of 2 within it for a video recording exercise. A sensitive or controversial question will be asked, by which the 2 internal teams would have a for or against discussion about. So during this heated discussion, participants' interactions will be filmed the whole time, and the video recordings will be distributed to all participants so that they can observe their own facial expressions, tone of voice, and other behavior that had emerged when aggravated. Participants will then break off for lunch and then return for session 3, where they will learn via lecture slides the importance of providing development opportunities to staff and the different types of employee support and training that they can give. After this, participants will be asked to play a game called Start, Stop, Continue to enhance participants' managerial coaching skills by telling each other what to start, what to stop, and what to continue doing. This game will facilitate openness and help participants understand the importance of coaching and giving regular feedback to staff for development purposes. In session 4, participants will learn a variety of pay structures, pay progression methods, and when best to apply them, and other reward and compensation ideas that can push staff into consistent performance. They will also learn of the impact of various reward programs on different individuals to understand which incentive scheme is appropriate for different levels of staff. All lessons here will be conducted via lecture slides, and the last session will be an exchange session with the instructor. Module 2 will be about redesigning the business model. In session 1, participants will firstly get into groups to discuss about the general assumptions of digitalization. Once the assumptions are outlined, they will be presented with a set of common misconceptions about digitalization that would be clarified to change their pre-existing mindset about digitalization, along with success stories of companies that have embraced digitalization to stay ahead of the game through a lecture session. After returning from tea break, 6 successful and proven business models powered by digital tech will be presented via lecture and discussed so that participants can evaluate them as part of their digital strategy. After lunch, the participants are free to return to their workstation or home to attend the remaining sessions of the day via online means, because at 3 p.m., a webcast session to familiarize participants with using digital tech in their everyday life on the art of rethinking business models with innovation in mind will be conducted, while at 4 p.m., the exchange session with the instructor will also happen online. Next, as Module 3 and 4 are rather short, they will be conducted on the same day. For Module 3, Working with Machines, our Session 1 lecture will guide participants to understand just how humans can effectively augment machines and how machines can enhance what humans do best through learning the 3 crucial roles of humans and machines, so that these leaders and participants, they can champion the idea of embracing robotics and other innovative solutions in the workplace. For Session 2, through a lecture and case study on an established car manufacturer that reimagined its manufacturing process through integrating AI into its workflow, participants will learn the key areas of business process that the AI will transform and what steps to take in the reimagination of business process. Also, when changing the business process, organizations must be committed to upskill or reskill employees with fusion skills that will enable them to work effectively with machines. So Session 3 will be about helping participants understand what these fusion skills are through a lecture based on a book about the human-machine relationship. At the end of the lecture, facilitators will lead a brief discussion based on the book, and copies of the book will be handed out free of charge to the participants to serve as a practical guide in adopting AI into their organization. Module 4, Growing Entrepreneurs and Innovators, will take place after lunch, starting with a lecture in Session 4 about the 5 components of entrepreneurial orientation and the purposeful management of each component to help leaders develop staff that act innovatively and entrepreneurially. A case study on a credit card company that has developed a proprietary mechanism to foster staff innovation and entrepreneurship will be presented. After the tea break, participants will learn through a lecture in Session 5 on using storytelling as a strategic tool and key mistakes to avoid when storytelling. An entrepreneurial game called the envelope exercise will then be played, where participants in a group of 4 are asked to plan for a 2-hour activity to increase an unknown investment provided to them in an envelope, by which the amount will be very small, around 5 ringgit. This game will show participants how easy it can be to generate revenue and how important innovation and entrepreneurship is in the process of creatively generating revenue. A subsequent lecture session at 4 p.m. will guide participants on how best to craft a compelling story and present 20 examples of powerful innovation stories that will inspire participants to invest in storytelling. A simulation would then be conducted where the previously developed 2-hour activity must now be presented by each group to a panel of stakeholders to secure the buy-in. This will invite participants to challenge pre-existing assumptions, patterns of communicating or storytelling, and to practice their responses when dealing with stubborn or rigid stakeholders. This model will end with an exchange session. The last module, Innovative Succession Development, will see the lecture in Session 1 teaching participants on the importance and challenges of succession planning, the need to focus on the development process, and the criticality of measuring outcomes instead of processes. There will be a tea break before Session 2, and when participants return, they will dive deep into how smart talent management, with modern human capital management tech, machine learning, and AI, helps leaders in succession planning and development. A case study on recent undertakings of IBM Watson in modernizing traditional talent management will be presented to show how people analytics can be used to empower employees to take charge of their own growth and development. After lunch, a lecture session on the best practices in traditional succession planning and development and their underlying principles will be delivered. Participants will then take part in a succession planning exercise called 9-Box to grasp the concept of evaluating current talent according to actual performance and perceived leadership potential. In Session 4, after returning from the tea break, a framework on how leaders can effectively use AI and machine learning to solve succession problems posed by traditional methodology will also be presented so that they can understand how they can address learning and development needs in a more efficient way to develop, engage, and retain talent. The module will end with an exchange session. Now that we have a better understanding of what participants will get out of our program, let's take a look at some program particulars to know about how we run our leadership program. Firstly, experienced supervisors, managers, and assistant managers from middle management with 10 to 15 years management experience are all welcome to join our program, but we highly encourage getting inexperienced organizational leaders to participate, such as newly appointed junior managers who have only been in their role for 5 years or less, who are having to adapt to the demands of managing people, forming collaborations, and cultivating innovation in a fast-changing business environment. We believe that our Innovation for Emerging Leaders programs can serve as a valuable stepping stone for them as they venture into the chapter of their managerial corporate life. There won't be any big classes for our program, as we want to forge small, highly focused and close-knitted leadership groups so that they can support each other well. That's why our maximum number of participants is limited to 20 people. Now, participants will be in good hands as our program is organized and run by a team of 4 excellent talent development facilitators who are credible, engaging, and approachable. Our panel of instructors in charge of delivering program modules is comprised of 6 esteemed subject matter experts who are knowledgeable in their sphere of competence with accreditations under their belt, while the mentors who will be assigned to 4 participants each to support their learning are made out of 4 or 5 highly experienced veterans in the corporate sector. Next, our program has 14 modules which will be conducted and spread across a period of 12 months. 1 module will be conducted each month until the very last month, with the exception of 4 modules which have been condensed into 2 days of workshops to fit into the 12-month timeline. During these 12 months, participants will have 6 mentorship sessions, with each taking place after the completion of every 2 modules, while progress discussions between mentors, participants, and their direct report will occur every 2 weeks after each phase is completed. 1 lunch and 2 tea breaks will be provided to participants on each day of their physical workshop. To evaluate the effectiveness and participants' level of satisfaction towards our program, we will do our evaluation both during and after the program. During our program, a feedback form will be distributed to participants at the end of each module to assess the effectiveness and relevance of each module. Once the 12 months are up and upon the program's completion, a one-off feedback form will be given to participants at the end of the final module to gauge the quality of the program in its entirety. To continuously support our participants in their leadership development journey, a series of follow-up sessions will be conducted during and after the program. During the program, there will be exchange sessions between instructors, facilitators, and participants that occur at the last session of each module. This session gives participants a chance to ask questions, share insights, and get into fruitful discussions with our field expert instructors, which also serves as a follow-up on the materials that they had just learned about. Follow-ups after the modules, follow-ups after the modules are done through one-on-one mentorship sessions between the mentors and their assigned mentees that take place after the completion of 2 modules. During this mentorship session, participants will have the chance to go through their PDP with their mentor, ask any questions or guidance they need from their mentor on anything program or even work related to facilitate their learning experience. Another follow-up after modules is a progress discussion between mentors, mentees, and their direct report, which will occur 2 weeks after each phase is completed. This is where participants' understanding of the modules and leadership development can be scrutinized and discussed upon to gauge the effectiveness of the program on each of the participants.
Our Avangrid innovative learning approach to efficiency learning is largely based on 2 approaches. Number 1, our program was crafted with the Break and Wise team learning model in mind, where we participants are presented with learning triggers in form of knowledge communication through lectures related to respective modules. Once knowledge is gained, we ease participants into the transition phase where sharing sessions and group discussions are conducted for participants to recall their previously learned knowledge and ensure collective awareness. Then, we engage participants in action phase behaviors through hands-on practical activities like management games and simulations that facilitate the integration and reinforcement of learned knowledge into their minds. Once all these are done and dusted, participants' learning episode is properly concluded through the engagement of storage behavior, where the learned knowledge are stored cognitively or in memory. And we do this through our monthly mentor sessions and participants' personal development plan. We also adopt Avangrid's very own naked approach to innovative learning. Need to know, where we supply participants with the right piece of information or relevant knowledge for the task at hand. Anytime, anywhere. As professionals are always on the go, we believe that teaching should be accessible anytime participant needs it, wherever they may be. Thus, our e-learning portal provides around-the-clock remote access to all module materials. Knowledge to behavior. Our modules are designed to solidify new knowledge into practical skills and new behaviors by integrating theory, best practice with hands-on activities and case studies. As we understand that learning is non-linear, our program delivers continuous and consistent mentorship sessions that strengthen information retention in ebb and flow of learning. Lastly, we provide diversity in learning, and our module will be delivered through a variety of formats such as webcast sessions, e-learning portals, physical lecture sessions, videos, case studies, and group activities. In summary, leaders hold the key. Innovators break the law. Imagine the power one holds when they're both. With our leadership development program, CMS management team can harness that power. Our program delivers leaders, innovators, and innovative leaders right to your doorstep. Your organizational leader will learn relevant industry and innovative leadership knowledge. They will be given opportunity to hone their leadership skills, capabilities, and have their minds enriched with new perspectives about innovation. Their pre-existing negative leadership attitudes can be transformed into productive and wholesome leadership behavior that will help take their own team and CMS to greater heights. So, invest in innovation for emerging leaders. Invest in CMS future, because at Avangrid, we reward what leaders are into what leaders should be in an increasing challenging and uncertain business environment. And here are some testimonials from our previous participants. Thanks for listening.